Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Chasing English. And if this is your first time here, I'm really happy you found this little corner of the internet. Let me introduce myself in the most honest way I can. I'm not an English teacher. I'm not a native speaker. I'm just a learner, just like you, trying my best every day to become more fluent through reading, listening, speaking practice, and real-life experience. No perfect accent, no perfect routine, no perfect life. Just one person learning step by step and sharing the journey along the way. That is what this channel is all about. Here, we are not chasing perfection. We are chasing progress. We are building a space that feels simple, real, warm, and encouraging. A place where you can practice English without pressure. A place where you can breathe a little deeper. A place where you can remember that growth does not have to look loud or dramatic to be real. Today, I want to talk with you about something that matters far beyond English. We are going to talk about how to stay positive when learning gets hard, and when life gets hard too. Because let's be honest, some days everything feels light. Your mind is clear, your heart is open, you study well, you feel hopeful, you feel strong. On those days, positivity feels natural, almost effortless. But then there are other days. Days when you wake up tired before the day has even begun. Days when your mind feels heavy. Days when your English feels stuck. Days when one small mistake suddenly feels much bigger than it really is. Days when life outside your studies is already asking too much from you, and even the smallest task feels difficult. Those are the days when positivity becomes important, not the easy days, the hard ones. And I think that is something many people misunderstand. People often imagine that positive people are simply born different. They think some people are naturally cheerful, naturally confident, naturally light, and everyone else is just trying to catch up. They look at someone who smiles often, speaks kindly, stays calm, and keeps going. And they assume that person must have an easier life or a stronger personality. But the longer I live and the longer I learn, the more I realize something very different. The most positive people are not always the happiest people. Sometimes they are the ones who have cried quietly, the ones who have doubted themselves, the ones who have failed, started again, and failed again, the ones who have spent long nights feeling lost. The ones who know what it feels like to be discouraged, exhausted, or uncertain. What makes them special is not that they never feel low. What makes them special is that, somehow, after everything, they keep returning to hope. That is the real heart of positivity. It is not constant excitement. It is not fake smiling. It is not pretending pain does not exist. It is not forcing yourself to act cheerful when your heart feels tired. Real positivity is quieter than that. It is the decision to keep a small door open inside yourself. It is the choice to believe that this moment is not the final chapter. It is the willingness to say, today is hard, but maybe tomorrow can be softer. It is looking at your imperfect life, your imperfect progress, your imperfect self, and still saying, I will not turn against myself. That kind of positivity is not a personality trait. It is a practice, a gentle one, a daily one, a deeply human one. And that is good news because it means positivity is not something reserved for a lucky few. It is not something you either have or do not have. It is something you can build, slowly, quietly, patiently, one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. If you are learning English right now, I want you to hold on to this truth very closely. You are not trapped inside the mood you woke up in. You are not trapped inside one bad lesson. You are not trapped inside one embarrassing mistake. You are not trapped inside one disappointing day. You are allowed to shift. You are allowed to reset. You are allowed to begin again in the middle of the day. You are allowed to speak to yourself with more kindness than you did yesterday. And maybe that is where positivity truly begins. Not in big life-changing moments, not in dramatic breakthroughs, Not in some magical morning when suddenly everything feels easy. Maybe it begins in tiny inner decisions. In the moment you stop saying, "I'm so bad at this," and start saying, "I'm still learning." In the moment you stop asking, "Why am I not better already?" and start asking, "What small step can I take today?" In the moment you stop trying to be impressive and simply decide to be consistent. That shift may look small from the outside, but inside, it changes everything. Because your inner voice becomes your environment. And if your inner voice is always harsh, impatient, and critical, then even good opportunities can start to feel heavy. Even beautiful progress can feel invisible. Even a simple study session can feel like punishment. But when your inner voice becomes softer, everything changes shape. Your mistakes become lessons. Your slow days become part of the process. Your setbacks become pauses, not endings. And your journey becomes something you can actually stay with. I think many of us need permission to stop being so hard on ourselves. We think pressure will save us. We think self-criticism will make us stronger. We think if we are strict enough, demanding enough, disappointed enough, then maybe we will finally improve. But often the opposite is true. A mind that is constantly attacked does not bloom. A heart that is constantly criticized does not open. A person who feels emotionally unsafe inside themselves cannot grow freely. Growth needs honesty, yes, but it also needs kindness. And that is why positivity matters so much. Not because it makes life look pretty, not because it helps us ignore pain, but because it creates enough light inside us to keep moving through the dark. Sometimes positivity is not saying everything is amazing. Sometimes it is simply saying, "This is hard, but I am still here." Sometimes it is saying, "I don't have all the answers, but I have not given up." Sometimes it is saying, "I may be tired, but I still believe my effort means something." And honestly, I think those quiet sentences are much more powerful than big dramatic motivation because they are believable. They are human. They are steady. They can stay with you when the excitement disappears. Now let me ask you something. What usually greets you first in the morning? Not outside of you, inside of you. What is the first sentence your mind offers when your eyes open? For many people, it is not gentle at all. It sounds like this: "I didn't sleep enough. I'm already behind. I don't want to deal with today. There's too much to do. I'm tired. I'm not ready." And before the day has even begun, the mind has already painted everything in heavy colors. Or maybe the first thing we do is reach for the phone. We check messages, notifications, headlines, emails, social media, other people's lives, other people's opinions, other people's energy. And without even noticing it, we hand over the emotional steering wheel of our day before we have fully taken our first breath. But the early morning is sacred in a quiet way. Your mind is still soft there, still open, still listening. The first thought of the day is like the first drop of color in clear water. It spreads farther than we realize. It influences the way we move, the way we speak, the way we respond, the way we study, the way we see ourselves. That is why your first inner message matters so much. You do not need to wake up and become a motivational speaker. You do not need to stand in front of a mirror and perform confidence you do not feel. You do not need a long list of perfect affirmations. You just need one gentle thought. One kind sentence, one soft beginning. Maybe when you wake up, instead of rushing into stress, you whisper, "Start soft." I love that sentence because it asks for so little and gives so much. It does not demand happiness. It does not demand productivity. It does not demand perfection. It simply reminds you that force is not the only way to begin. Or maybe your morning sentence is, "I can handle today. One step at a time. I don't need to rush. Let me begin kindly. I am still learning. This day is not against me." These are not magic words. They do not erase all problems, but they do something important. They create emotional direction. They become little anchors, and sometimes that is exactly what we need. not a huge wave of motivation, just something steady to hold. Because when your first thought is kind, your next choice often becomes kinder too. You breathe a little slower. You judge yourself a little less. You stop expecting yourself to do everything perfectly before breakfast. You stop treating the day like a battle you are already losing. And that changes the energy of everything that follows. Your coffee tastes calmer. Your study session feels more possible. Your mistakes feel less personal. Your heart feels less crowded. I think many people are trying to heal themselves with intensity when what they really need is gentleness. They think the answer is to push harder, wake up earlier, do more, fix everything immediately, become stronger overnight. But some seasons of life are not asking you to become harder. They are asking you to become softer in the right places. Softer with your expectations, softer with your pace, softer with your own humanity. Because the truth is, you do not need to feel fully ready to begin your day. You only need to begin. And you do not need to begin loudly. You can begin quietly. You can begin imperfectly. You can begin with tired eyes and a hopeful heart. You can begin with a messy room and a determined spirit. You can begin with fear still in your chest. You can begin without certainty. A gentle beginning is still a beginning. And often, those gentle beginnings lead to the strongest kind of progress, the kind that lasts. So if today feels hard, or your heart feels a little heavy, or your English journey feels slower than you hoped, please remember this. You do not need to force sunshine into your soul. You only need to leave a small window open. Let a little light in. Let one kind thought in. Let one calm breath in. Let one small act of hope in. That is enough for now. And once you begin to live with a little more gentleness, another quiet truth starts to appear. Positivity is not only about what you think. It is also about what you allow. It is about what you let into your mind, your heart, your day, your conversations, and your personal space. Because there comes a point in every growth journey, whether you are learning English, rebuilding your confidence, or simply trying to become a calmer and stronger person, when you realize that being positive does not mean saying yes to everything. In fact, sometimes the most positive decision you can make is to step back, to pause, to say, this is too much for me right now, to admit, this conversation is draining me, to notice this habit is stealing more from me than it is giving, to understand, not everything deserves access to my energy. That lesson took me a while to understand. For a long time, I thought kindness meant always being available. I thought being a good person meant answering every message, staying in every conversation, explaining myself again and again, and making sure nobody ever felt disappointed because of me. I thought protecting my own peace was somehow selfish. I thought saying no made me cold. I thought stepping away meant I was weak. But life has a quiet way of teaching us what constant giving does to the soul. If you keep saying yes to every interruption, every demand, every negative voice, every heavy environment, every exhausting expectation, something inside you slowly begins to fade. You may still be smiling on the outside. You may still be functioning. You may still be showing up. But deep inside, your strength starts to thin out. And one day you wake up tired in a way that sleep cannot fix. Not because you are lazy. Not because you are ungrateful, not because you are doing life wrong, but because your energy has been flowing outward in too many directions for too long. That is why protecting your energy is not selfish. It is wise. Think of your energy like a small garden. I love this image because it feels so true. A garden needs care. It needs water, sunlight, attention, time, and protection. If people keep walking through it carelessly, pulling at the flowers, stepping on the soil, and taking what they want without helping it grow, that garden will not stay beautiful for long. Your inner life is the same. If you give all your time to stress, all your attention to noise, all your patience to chaos, and all your emotional strength to people who do not know how to hold it gently, then what will be left for the things that truly matter? What will be left for your English practice? What will be left for your peace of mind? What will be left for your dreams? What will be left for the version of you that is quietly trying to grow? Sometimes we are so afraid of disappointing others that we keep disappointing ourselves. We keep abandoning our rest. We keep delaying our learning. We keep ignoring our own limits. We keep choosing noise over peace because noise is familiar. And slowly we forget that our well-being deserves protection too. But it does. You do not have to be harsh to have boundaries. That is something I really want you to remember. A boundary does not have to sound angry. It does not have to sound dramatic. It does not have to be a big final speech. Sometimes a boundary is just a soft, honest sentence. I can't do that today. I need some quiet time. I'm focusing on something important right now. I'm not available for this conversation. I need to rest. I'd rather not continue this. There is so much strength in simple honesty, and there is so much peace in realizing that you are allowed to protect what keeps you whole. You are allowed to leave spaces that make you feel small. You are allowed to spend less time with constant negativity. You are allowed to stop explaining your every choice. You are allowed to choose calm over chaos. You are allowed to guard your inner world like something precious, because it is. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is create a little distance. You can care about people and still protect yourself. You can wish someone well and still walk away from their drama. You can be compassionate without becoming emotionally available to every storm. You can love others without handing them the keys to your peace. Not everyone will understand your boundaries. Some people only feel comfortable with the version of you that never says no. Some people will call your growth distance. Some people will mistake your quietness for attitude. Some people will not know what to do when you stop over-explaining, over-giving, and over-carrying what was never yours in the first place. But their misunderstanding does not make your boundary wrong. Sometimes growth looks like becoming less accessible to what hurts you. And that is not a loss. That is healing. The more you protect your energy, the more clearly you begin to hear yourself again. Your thoughts become less crowded. Your breathing becomes deeper. Your study time becomes more focused. Your joy returns in small pieces, and your life begins to feel like yours again. And then, in that clearer inner space, something beautiful becomes easier to notice. Gratitude. Not performative gratitude, not forced gratitude, not the kind people use to pretend pain is not real. I mean the quiet, steady kind. The kind that does not shout. The kind that does not need perfect conditions. The kind that can sit beside sadness without trying to erase it. Because motivation is wonderful, but it comes and goes. Some mornings you wake up ready to do everything. You feel inspired. You feel focused. You feel full of energy. You sit down to study, and the words seem to flow towards you. On those days, progress feels almost easy. But then there are other days when motivation disappears without warning. You feel slow. You feel distracted. You feel emotionally far away from your goals. You know what you should do, but your heart is simply not in it. That is where gratitude becomes different from motivation. Motivation is a wave. Gratitude is a candle. A small one, maybe. A quiet one, definitely. But steady. It does not need to be dramatic to matter. It only needs to remain lit. I know that when people are tired or overwhelmed, the words "just be grateful" can feel frustrating, even unfair. Because when you are carrying a lot inside, gratitude can sound like pressure. It can sound like someone is asking you to smile through pain or ignore what is difficult. But true gratitude is not denial. It is not looking at a hard life and pretending it is easy. It is not forcing happiness onto a wounded heart. It is not saying everything is wonderful when clearly it is not. Gratitude is gentler than that. Gratitude is a pause. A moment in the middle of real life when you stop and quietly say, yes, some things feel messy right now. Yes, I am tired. Yes, I still have a long way to go. But this one thing right here is still good. That is all. Just one thing. Maybe it is the warm smell of coffee in the morning. Maybe it is the comfort of your favorite cup. Maybe it is the soft sound of rain outside your window. Maybe it is a kind message from someone who understands your journey. Maybe it is one English sentence that suddenly made sense today. Maybe it is the simple fact that you're still here, still trying, still learning, still refusing to give up on yourself. Small things matter more than we think. In fact, they often save us. A peaceful morning, a little progress, a quiet room, a deep breath, a notebook waiting to be filled, a sentence you can understand more clearly than last week, a moment of courage, a moment of rest, a moment when you choose to be patient with yourself. These things may look ordinary from the outside, but inside a real life, they are powerful. Because what you notice, you strengthen. If every day your mind only searches for what is wrong, it becomes very good at finding what is wrong. It will collect mistakes, compare timelines, magnify fears, and replay every moment where you felt behind. It will build a story that says, I'm failing, I'm late, I'm not good enough. Everyone else is doing better. But when you begin noticing what is still good, even in small amounts, your inner story begins to change. Not all at once, not overnight, but slowly, steadily, beautifully. The story shifts from I am so far behind to I am still moving, from nothing is working to something small is still working, from I should be better by now to I am growing in ways I cannot always see. And sometimes that softer story is what gives you the strength to continue. I think gratitude is especially important when you are learning a language, because language learning can make you feel very aware of what you cannot do yet. You notice your mistakes immediately. You hear the words you missed. You compare your voice to others. You measure yourself against some future version of fluency and forget to honor the progress already living inside you. But gratitude gently brings you back. It reminds you that maybe a few months ago, this same lesson would have felt impossible. It reminds you that once even speaking one sentence felt scary. It reminds you that every word you know now was once unknown. It reminds you that your journey is already full of evidence that you can grow. That matters, because gratitude does not make you stop wanting more. It simply teaches you not to hate where you are while you are on your way. And that is such a beautiful way to live. To be ambitious but still peaceful. To want growth but still respect your current self. To keep going but without constant war inside your own mind. There is strength in that kind of gratitude. A quiet strength, a healing strength, a strength that does not make a lot of noise, but changes everything from within. So maybe tonight, or tomorrow morning, or whenever your heart feels too full, too tired, or too uncertain, you can pause for just a moment and ask yourself, what is one good thing that is still here? Not 5 things, not 10 things, just one. One thing you can honestly thank life for. One thing your heart can rest on for a second. One thing that reminds you that all is not lost. That tiny act may seem small, but it is not small at all. It's a way of returning to yourself. It is a way of reminding your mind that light still exists even when the day feels cloudy. And sometimes, that one small moment of gratitude becomes the bridge that carries you into the next hour with more calm, more courage, and more softness than before. Still, even with boundaries, even with gratitude, even with all this gentleness and awareness, there will still be hard days. Days when your body feels heavy. Days when your mind does not want to cooperate. Days when even the smallest task feels strangely far away. And on those days, the question becomes even more important. What do you do when you do not feel good at all, but you still want to keep going? What do you do when your energy is low, your heart feels heavy, your motivation has disappeared, and even the smallest task feels harder than usual. I think this is where many people give up too quickly. Not because they are weak, but because they believe the wrong thing. They believe they must feel good before they can do good. They believe they must feel inspired before they can begin. They believe they must feel confident before they can try. They believe they must feel strong before they can take one more step. But one of the most beautiful truths I have learned on this journey is this: you do not have to feel good to do something good. You do not have to be full of light to keep a small light alive. You do not have to feel powerful to make a wise decision. You do not have to feel motivated to stay loyal to your growth. And honestly, that truth has changed the way I look at both English learning and life itself. Because some days, you will not feel ready. Some days, your mind will be tired before the morning even begins. Some days, your confidence will feel far away. Some days, even smiling may feel like work. Some days, you will sit in front of your notebook, your phone, your lesson, or your reading practice and feel almost nothing. No excitement, no big energy, no spark, just a quiet heaviness. And on those days, it is easy to think, maybe I should skip today. Maybe I'm not in the right mood. Maybe I'll come back when I feel better. And of course, rest is important. Real rest matters. I truly believe that. But there is also something powerful about learning that you do not need perfect feelings to take one meaningful action. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is something very small. Drink a glass of water. Open the curtains. Wash your face. Make your bed. Sit up a little straighter. Read one paragraph in English. Listen to 1 minute of practice. Repeat one sentence out loud. Write down 3 words you learned before. Take one deep breath and begin again. These actions may look tiny, but tiny does not mean meaningless. In fact, on hard days, tiny actions are often the most meaningful ones of all, because they send a message to your brain, a quiet but powerful message. It says, we are still here. We have not disappeared. We have not given up on ourselves. We may be struggling today, but we are still moving. We may be tired, but we are still choosing life. We may be discouraged, but we are not done. That matters more than you realize. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of showing up in a small way. We think only dramatic effort counts. We think only perfect routines matter. We think a day is only successful if we did everything. But life does not work like that. Some days are for big progress. Some days are for quiet maintenance. Some days are for deep focus. And some days are simply for not giving up. All of those days count, especially the last one, because there is a special kind of strength in choosing not to abandon yourself when life feels heavy. Anyone can believe in themselves on a good day. Anyone can feel hopeful when things are flowing easily. Anyone can be positive when the sun is shining inside and outside. But the real work of becoming stronger happens on the gray days, the slow days, the uncertain days, the emotionally messy days. The days when you are not impressive at all, but you are still present. Those days build something deep inside you. They build trust. Trust that you can keep showing up even when the mood is not perfect. Trust that you can survive difficult emotions without letting them control every choice. Trust that you do not need to be at your best to do something meaningful. Trust that your progress belongs to you, even when it is quiet and invisible. And that kind of trust changes a person. Because once you stop waiting to feel perfect, you become much freer to live. You stop saying, I'll begin when I feel better, and you start saying, I'll begin with what I have today. You stop saying, this day is ruined, and you start saying, this day is hard, but maybe it can still hold one good thing. You stop measuring your worth by your mood, and you start remembering that you are still valuable, still capable, still deserving of care, even on difficult days. I really want to pause here and say something important. Your emotions and your actions do not always have to match. You can feel tired and still be kind. You can feel discouraged and still practice. You can feel sad and still choose gentleness. You can feel anxious and still take a small, brave step. You can feel disappointed and still move forward with dignity. That is not fake. That is maturity. That is strength, right? That is inner leadership. It means you are learning how to honor your feelings without becoming controlled by them. And that is such an important part of building a positive life. Because positivity is not emotional perfection. It is not being cheerful every second. It is not acting like pain never visits your life. It is not wearing a smile that your heart does not believe. Positivity is staying in relationship with hope, even when hope is quiet, even when hope feels small, even when all hope can say is, try one more little thing. Some of the most meaningful things you will ever do may happen on days when you feel like you have almost nothing left to give. That sentence means so much to me because we often imagine important moments as big, bright, and obvious. We imagine transformation happening with music in the background and a huge wave of confidence rising in the chest. But real transformation is often much quieter. It happens when you choose not to speak cruelly to yourself. It happens when you study for 5 minutes instead of 0. It happens when you stop the spiral of negative thoughts before it grows. It happens when you leave one draining conversation early. It happens when you rest without guilt. It happens when you begin again after a setback, with a softer heart than before. Those moments do not always look powerful, but they are, because they are changing your identity from the inside. They are teaching you that you are someone who returns, someone who continues, someone who bends without breaking, someone who can be gentle and still strong, someone who can be honest about pain without building a home inside it. And I think that is one of the most beautiful ways to live, not by avoiding hard days, not by pretending difficulty does not exist, but by learning how to walk through difficulty without losing your light. Maybe not all your light, but enough. Enough to take the next step. Enough to speak one kind sentence. Enough to believe that this season is not forever. Enough to keep the window open. If you are in a hard season right now, I want to tell you something from the heart. A hard season is not proof that you are failing. A slow season is not proof that you are falling behind. A tired season is not proof that you are weak. A confused season is not proof that you are on the wrong path. Sometimes growth goes underground before it rises where you can see it, just like roots. For a while, nothing looks dramatic on the surface. Maybe it even feels like nothing is happening. But underneath, life is still working. Strength is still forming. Understanding is still deepening. Patience is still stretching you into a wiser person. The same is true for your English. The same is true for your mind. The same is true for your life. There will be times when progress feels obvious, and there will be times when progress feels hidden. But hidden does not mean absent. Please remember that. Not every good thing arrives loudly. Some of the best changes happen so quietly that you only notice them later. One day, you realize you are calmer than before. One day, you notice you recover from setbacks faster. One day, you hear yourself speaking English with less fear. One day, you realize you no longer believe every negative thought that passes through your mind. One day, you find yourself choosing peace more naturally. And that is when you understand. All those small days mattered. All those quiet efforts mattered. All those invisible choices were building someone stronger. So, on the hard days, do not ask yourself to be extraordinary. Ask yourself to be faithful. Faithful to your well-being. Faithful to your values. Faithful to one small act of care. Faithful to one soft step. Faithful to the person you are becoming. Maybe today that means doing a full lesson. Maybe today that means reading for 10 minutes. Maybe today that means simply listening to English while resting. Maybe today that means closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and refusing to talk to yourself like an enemy. All of that counts. Please do not let the loud world convince you that only huge progress is worthy of respect. Quiet progress matters. Gentle progress matters. Slow healing matters. Soft beginnings matter. Tiny acts of courage matter. Returning matters. Especially returning. Because the truth is, you will drift sometimes. We all do. You will have days when you feel off, distracted, disappointed, or disconnected. You will have moments when you lose your rhythm. You will have weeks that feel less disciplined, less clear, less inspired than you hoped. That does not make you a failure. It makes you human. The important thing is not never drifting. The important thing is learning how to return without shame. Return to your practice. Return to your peace. Return to your values. Return to your breath. Return to your hope. Return to yourself. Again and again and again. That is what a positive life really looks like. Not perfect consistency. Not permanent happiness. Not endless motivation. But return. 1,000 small returns. And maybe that is why I wanted to talk about this with you today. Not only because it helps with English, but it helps with how you wake up. It helps with how you speak to yourself. It helps with how you protect your energy. It helps with how you notice what is still good. It helps with how you move through difficult days without losing your direction. It helps you build a life that feels softer, steadier, and more honest. And that kind of life is not built in one perfect morning. It is built breath by breath, choice by choice, thought by thought, step by step. So, my friend, if today has been hard, if learning feels heavy, if your heart feels a little tired, if you have been waiting for a sign that you are allowed to slow down, be gentle, and still keep going, let this be your sign. Take a deep breath. You do not have to fix your whole life today. You do not have to become your best self by tonight. You do not have to force joy. You do not have to solve everything at once. You only need one soft step, one calm breath, one kind thought, one small action that says, I still care about my life. That is enough. More than enough. And if you made it all the way to the end of this episode, I hope you feel proud of yourself. Truly proud. Because by being here, listening, reflecting, practicing your English, and caring for your mind, you are already doing something beautiful for your future. You are building fluency. You are building resilience. You are building a better relationship with yourself. And that matters so much. Thank you for spending this time with me here on Chasing English. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for learning with me. Thank you for growing in this simple, real, encouraging space. Please remember this before you go. Positivity is not about being cheerful every second. It is about returning to hope again and again. It is about choosing not to abandon yourself. It is about believing that even a hard day can still hold something gentle, something meaningful, something worth continuing for. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep protecting your peace. Keep speaking kindly to your mind. Keep taking those small, brave steps. Keep chasing growth, not perfection. And of course, keep chasing fluency with me. I'll see you in the next episode of Chasing English. Bye for now.